By the time he looked in the mirror, even his own son would not recognize him. The proud chief had become a beggar. With a crooked walking stick and a torn bag, he walked through the busy market. His expensive perfume was replaced by the smell of dust and sweat. People passed him by without a glance. At the bus park, women selling fruits waved their hands. "Old man, move away. You are blocking my customers." He bowed his head and shuffled aside. At a restaurant, two young ladies laughed as he begged, "You think we will waste our money on you? Dirty man." One even threw leftover bones at his feet. But Chief Okoro said nothing. He was not looking for pity. He was looking for a heart. And then, he saw her. Amara. She was a young woman, dressed simply in a faded blouse and skirt, carrying a tray of roasted groundnuts. Unlike the others, she did not frown at him. Instead, she stopped, placed her tray on the ground, and asked softly, "Baba, have you eaten today?" He shook his head slowly. Without hesitation, Amara took a small packet of groundnuts from her tray and pressed it into his hand. "Take this, Baba. Eat. You need strength." Chief Okoro's throat tightened. He whispered, "I have no money to pay you." Amara smiled, her eyes kind but firm. "Not everything in this world is bought with money. Go in peace." As he chewed the nuts, he watched others mock her. A man sneered, "You waste your goods on beggars. That is why you remain poor." But Amara did not respond. She only adjusted her tray and walked away with dignity. That night, Chief Okoro returned home. He removed his disguise, washed the dust from his face, and sat at his desk. In the bustling city of Kwame, there lived a wealthy businessman named Chief Okoro. His company was known across the city, his house stood tall with shining gates, and his cars made people turn their heads when he passed by. But for all his wealth, he carried one heavy burden: his only son, Haki, refused to marry. Haki was everything a young man could be: tall, educated, handsome, and charming. Women admired him, mothers prayed to have him as a son-in-law, and friends envied his lifestyle. Yet, despite all the admiration, Haki was restless. "Father," he once said at the dinner table, "these women do not see me. They only see the cars, the house, the money. If tomorrow I lost everything, none of them would stay." Chief Okoro looked at him with weary eyes. "But my son, marriage is not a market transaction. A man must find a companion. You cannot walk alone forever." But Haki shook his head. "I will not marry a woman who loves only my wealth. I want love that is real. A love that will not vanish when the money fades." As months turned to years, the whispers grew louder. Business partners laughed behind the chief's back, "His son is afraid of women." Family members mocked, "With all this wealth, and no heir." And still, Haki refused. One afternoon, Chief Okoro sat quietly in his study, staring at the photograph of his late wife. He whispered, "What will become of our son? Will our name end with him?" That night, he could not sleep. His mind turned and turned, until an idea came. It was strange, risky, but he believed it might reveal the truth. He said to himself, "If my son doubts love, then I will put love to the test." The next morning, Chief Okoro called his tailor and asked for old rags. He removed his golden wristwatch, rubbed ash on his face, and wrapped a scarf around his head. By the time he looked in the mirror, even his own son would not recognize him. The proud chief had become a beggar. With a crooked walking stick and a torn bag, he walked through the busy market. His expensive perfume was replaced by the smell of dust and sweat. People passed him by without a glance. At the bus park, women selling fruits waved their hands, "Old man, move away. You are blocking my customers." He bowed his head and shuffled aside. At a restaurant, two young ladies laughed as he begged, "You think we will waste our money on you? Dirty man. One even threw leftover bones at his feet. But Chief Okoro said nothing. He was not looking for pity. He was looking for a heart. And then, he saw her. Amara. She was a young woman, dressed simply in a faded blouse and skirt, carrying a tray of roasted groundnuts. Unlike the others, she did not frown at him. Instead, she stopped, placed her tray on the ground, and asked softly, "Baba, have you eaten today?" He shook his head slowly. Without hesitation, Amara took a small packet of groundnuts from her tray and pressed it into his hand. "Take this, Baba. Eat. You need strength." Chief Okoro's throat tightened. He whispered, "I have no money to pay you." Amara smiled, her eyes kind but firm. "Not everything in this world is bought with money. Go in peace." As he chewed the nuts, he watched others mock her. A man sneered, "You waste your goods on beggars. That is why you remain poor." But Amara did not respond. She only adjusted her tray and walked away with dignity. That night, Chief Okoro returned home. He removed his disguise, washed the dust from his face, and sat at his desk. A smile tugged at his lips for the first time in months. However, Chief Okoro did not rush to conclusions after meeting Amara. He had lived long enough to know that sometimes kindness is only for show. So the next morning, he wore his disguise again and returned to the market. This time, he begged near the food stalls. A young woman in expensive clothes dropped coins into his hand. But when she thought he wasn't looking, she laughed with her friends. "Imagine me touching that old man. My hands will stink all day." Another lady offered him food, but only after she noticed men nearby were watching. She smiled sweetly at the crowd, then pushed the food at him like she was feeding a dog. Yet another girl seemed kind at first, sitting beside him. But when he asked for water, she hissed. "Old fool. Do you think I am your servant?" Each time, Chief Okoro's heart sank deeper. These were the very women who, in another life, might have admired Haki if he appeared with his cars and wealth. Now he saw their true faces. But Amara, she was different. Over the days, he observed her quietly. He noticed she never mocked the poor. If she had 2 pieces of bread, she shared one with a hungry child. When her tray was heavy, she did not wait for help, she carried it herself. Even when she was tired, she smiled at her customers. Chief Okoro grew curious. Who was this woman? What family did she come from? Was her kindness genuine, or just habit? He needed to know more before he made his decision. And so, his plan deepened. One evening, after a long day in disguise, Chief Okoro followed Amara at a distance as she left the market. Her path led through narrow streets, until she reached a small compound with cracked walls. There, he saw her greet an older woman with respect, her mother, and hand her the little money she had earned. From the shadows, he listened. "Mother, Amara, you sell all day and bring home so little. Why not find a rich man to marry you?" Amara, gently, "Mama, wealth does not guarantee love. I would rather struggle with someone honest than live in a mansion with a man whose heart is empty." Chief Okoro's chest tightened. Those words echoed his son's complaints almost exactly. Could it be fate? The next day, he tested her again. Disguised as the beggar, he deliberately stumbled and spilled her tray of groundnuts in the dirt. Instead of shouting or striking him, Amara bent down and picked the nuts one by one, sighing but not cursing. She even pressed a few cleaned ones back into his hand. Her voice was tired but kind. "Baba, accidents happen. Do not worry." At that moment, Chief Okoro knew her compassion was not a mask. That night, he sat in his study, removed the gray scarf, and looked at his son's photograph on the wall. He whispered. "Haki, if only you could see what I have seen. This woman's heart is richer than gold." But he also knew the hardest part was still ahead, convincing his stubborn son to even look at her. One evening, Chief Okoro called his son, Haki, into the study. The young man entered, dressed in a fine shirt, holding his phone as though nothing in the world troubled him. "Sit," his father said. Haki obeyed, though his eyes were wary. He had grown used to these conversations about marriage. But this time was different. "My son," Chief Okoro began slowly, "I have worn the clothes of a beggar." Haki frowned, thinking his father spoke in riddles. "Father, what do you mean?" "I walked the streets of this city," Chief Okoro continued, "in rags. I begged at markets, bus parks, and restaurants. I saw how women treated me when they thought I had nothing. And I found one woman, one, whose heart is true." Haki leaned back in his chair, almost laughing. "Father, do you think love can be discovered in the dirt? Even if she is kind, how can you be sure she loves me and not just feels sorry for you?" But Chief Okoro's face remained firm. "Because I have seen her soul, not her smile. Her name is Amara." For the first time, Haki felt uneasy. He trusted his father's judgment, but his pride whispered, "How can a woman who sells groundnuts in the market stand beside me, a man of wealth?" "Father," he said, shaking his head, "thank you for your effort. But I cannot marry a woman from the streets." And with that, he left the study. Chief Okoro sat in silence, his hand resting on the table. His eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in determination. "My son will see," he whispered. "Even the proud must bow before truth." Weeks passed before Chief Okoro made his next move. He arranged for Amara to deliver groundnuts at one of his company's staff parties. She did not know the invitation had come from him. When Haki arrived, surrounded by friends, he barely noticed her at first. But later that evening, when his drink spilled, Amara rushed forward to help him clean his shirt. "Sir, please, don't worry. Let me get some water." Her voice was the same calm kindness his father had described. Haki looked at her closely for the first time. She was not the most beautiful woman in the room, but there was a quiet dignity in her eyes. Yet pride still hardened his heart. When his friends teased, "Ah, Haki, don't let the groundnut seller catch you," he laughed along with them, brushing Amara aside as though she were nothing. From across the room, Chief Okoro watched, his face heavy with disappointment. He knew his son's journey would not be easy. The next month brought unexpected twists. Haki's company project collapsed, costing him a great deal of money. Rumors spread in the business world, Chief Okoro's son has failed. Perhaps he is not as smart as we thought. For the first time, Haki tasted shame. Friends stopped calling. Even the women who once followed him began to disappear. One evening, sitting alone in a cafe, he saw Amara enter with a basket of groundnuts. Their eyes met. She recognized him immediately, but instead of mocking him like others had, she came to his table and said softly, "You look troubled. Have you eaten?" Haki almost laughed bitterly. "Do I look like a man who cannot afford food?" Amara met his gaze steadily. "A man can be full in his stomach, but still hungry in his heart." Her words struck him like a spear. For the first time, he felt something stir, not attraction, but respect. Still, his pride would not let him show it. He simply nodded and said, "Leave me." But that night, her words echoed in his mind. One rainy evening, Haki's car broke down on a deserted road. As he struggled with the engine, drenched and furious, a familiar voice called out from under a small umbrella. "Sir, do you need help?" It was Amara. She had been walking home from the market. Haki, embarrassed, muttered, "No, go home. This is no place for you." But she did not leave. Instead, she stood beside him in the pouring rain, holding the umbrella over his head. Together, they tried to push the car to the side of the road. By the time help arrived, Haki was shivering, but his heart was strangely warm. No woman had ever stood with him in his weakness. No one had ever cared when he had nothing to offer. That night, lying in bed, he whispered into the darkness. Could it be that father was right? Hockey could not sleep. His mind replayed every encounter with Amara, her kindness at the staff party, her wisdom at the cafe, her loyalty in the rain. But still, his pride whispered, perhaps she is clever. Perhaps she knows who I am. Perhaps she only acts kind because she dreams of riches. So he decided to test her. The next week, he dressed in plain clothes, no expensive watch, no car, no sign of wealth. He borrowed an old bicycle from a driver and rode to the market where she sold her groundnuts. He approached her stall timidly, pretending to be a struggling student. Please, sister, he said, I have little money, but I am hungry. Without hesitation, Amara smiled and handed him a small pack. Take it. Eat. Don't worry about money. The road of life is long, and sometimes we all need help. Her words pierced him. He tried again another day, this time asking, what if I could never pay you back? She looked at him with quiet strength. Then let your kindness one day help another. That is enough for me. Hockey left the market shaken. This was not a performance. This was who she truly was. That night, Chief Okoro called his son again. Hockey, my boy, he said, pride is a mountain that blocks a man's blessing. If you let it stand too long, you may lose the very thing meant for you. Hockey stared at the floor, silent. He did not admit his tests. He did not reveal the stirring in his heart. But his father's words troubled him deeply. Meanwhile, gossip began to spread in the city. Some whispered that Chief Okoro had gone mad, planning to marry his son to a market woman. Others said the chief was bewitched. One evening, an aunt visited and scoffed. Brother, with all your wealth, you choose groundnuts for your son. The whole family will laugh at you. Chief Okoro only smiled faintly and replied. Better groundnuts with peace than diamonds with sorrow. But the pressure grew heavier. Even Hockey's friends mocked him openly. Your father wants to chain you to poverty. Hockey's pride fought with his conscience. Would he choose society's laughter, or the quiet truth in Amara's here? One afternoon, Hockey decided to test Amara a final time. He sent a friend, dressed as a wealthy businessman, to the market. The friend approached Amara, boasting of riches. Leave this life, young woman, he said. Come with me. I will buy you fine clothes, gold, and a house in the city. Amara looked at him in silence. Then she shook her head. Sir, thank you. But I am not for sale. My dignity cannot be bought with promises. The man pressed harder, flashing money. Still, Amara refused. When Hockey heard this, his heart nearly burst with relief. But at the same time, shame washed over him. How many times must she prove herself before I believe? How many walls have I built around my own heart? That night, he confessed to his father. Father. I tested her. Again and again. And she stood firm. Perhaps she is the one. But how can I, a man of wealth, enter her simple world without shaming her? Chief Okoro smiled knowingly. My son, you fear the wrong thing. Love does not shame. It lifts. If you truly love her, your world will not crush hers, it will rise together. From that day, Hockey began to change. He visited Amara at the market more often, no longer as a stranger, but as himself. At first, she was cautious, she had seen his mockery at the party. But slowly, she saw sincerity in his eyes. One afternoon, he stayed to help her sell groundnuts. At first, people laughed. Ah! Chief Okoro's son is now a traitor. But Hockey ignored them. He carried her tray, joked with children, and listened to Amara's laughter. For the first time in his life, he felt free. That evening, as the sun dipped low, he turned to her and said softly. Amara, the truth is, I am not who you think. My name is Haki, son of Chief Okoro. Her eyes widened, shock flashing across her face. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered. I knew you were hiding something. But it does not change who I saw. You are still the man who stood in the rain with me. You are still the one who shared my stall. Tears filled his eyes. His pride finally broke. Then will you let me walk with you, not as the rich man or the poor man, but simply as Haki? Amara's answer was a gentle smile. And though the path ahead was not easy, in that moment, Haki's heart found peace for the first time. Haki and Amara's relationship deepens, but not without resistance. Some of Haki's wealthy friends mock him. How can a man of your status fall for a village girl? Haki defends her fiercely. Yet whispers reach Amara, making her doubt if she belongs in his world. Meanwhile, the old beggar disguise comes back to haunt them. A group of villagers claims they saw the beggar disappear into the mansion. Rumors spread that the family may be hiding secrets. Tension builds. Amara feels trapped between love and scandal. Unable to bear the tension, Chief Okoro, the father, gathers the community elders and reveals the truth. He was the beggar. He did it not for shame, but to test hearts. He found in Amara the rare compassion money cannot buy. The villagers are stunned. Some praise his wisdom, while others say it was deception. Amara is humiliated at first, thinking she was just part of an experiment. Haki reassures her. It wasn't a test of you. It was a test of me. And you are the answer I never expected. Amara's family faces backlash. Some suitors she rejected spread lies about her, calling her gold digger. Meanwhile, Haki is pressured by his father's business associates to break off the relationship. They argue. Marrying a poor woman could damage the family's reputation. They threaten to pull investments. Haki faces his hardest decision yet: follow his heart, or protect his family's empire. He chooses Amara. But this decision has consequences. His father loses a major contract, and the family fortune is at risk. However, Amara herself saves the family from ruin. Using her education, she had quietly studied finance while working as a clerk. She proposes a new plan to rescue Haki's father's company. She impresses the very men who mocked her with her intelligence and integrity. The family fortune is restored. But more importantly, Amara earns not just Haki's love but the entire community's respect. The story ends with a grand wedding, not in a lavish hall, but in the village square, where both rich and poor gather. The father, watching with tears, whispers, I disguised myself to find love for my son, but instead, I found a daughter for my soul.